morning. Welcome to our second webinar event in our Talent Matters series. This is actually our fourth event that we've done. The second as a webinar. Already seems that we're all so used to this new way of the world. In promoting this, I did promise not to use new normal, because I think that drives everybody nuts. So, but we are in a new era, and doing webinars rather than real face-to-face events seems so normal. But I do hope that one day we can get back to hosting events in person and in real life, and that would be great. I'm Dave Jenkins, CEO and founder of Wave. Joined by Tom. Say hello, Tom.
Hi, guys. Awkward, that first bit, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the game show. It's the game show bit.
The thing with the live events is we'll get like a cup of tea and a bacon sandwich and can actually see who we're talking to. Break the ice.
Yeah, we're just talking. We're just talking to each other at this.
Yeah. That's better than talking to ourselves, though, Dave.
Hey?
Better than talking to ourselves.
Well, this is true. This is very true. So, if you don't know Tom is 10 years plus talent attraction expert, never short of an opinion or two. So should be good fun. Thank you to everyone who has joined us this morning. What we're talking about now is what on earth the talent attraction market is going to do, in this new era, and what it's going to look like. We don't know exactly. We don't have a crystal ball. So this is all opinion, and there's a chat bar on the right hand side. So feel free to wade in with your opinions and what you think might happen. We're going to try and give you some thoughts around what we think will happen, and feel free to get involved. If you haven't joined us before, if you didn't make the last one or seen the last one, so a little quick intro into us. We're putting on a series of webinars, and we're talking openly, candidly, honestly about what's happening within the talent attraction market. We want to give you an honest and open view around what we think is going on, and really we want to try and help you guys attract the best talent in the fastest and the most efficient way that's possible. So I'm going to give you some of our pearls of wisdom as we go through today. But again, any questions or whatever, stick them in the sidebar. So let's get cracking then. The world's changed. You can't be anywhere in the world and not have suffered some sort of impact or effect from COVID-19. But if we just rewind a few months, or seemed like a long time ago, you look back in February, we had a record number of vacancies that were available. We had pretty much the lowest unemployment that we had ever had. Talent shortages everywhere, pretty much. And really, at that point, if you could get a candidate to the final interview, there was a high chance that the client or you as the recruiter would hire that person, almost by default, because you wouldn't know when you'd be able to get another candidate to that, to the end stage of a recruitment process. And only a few months on, we're now looking at or seeing that. Reported the other day that it was over 1,000 applications for a sort of front of house receptionist at a restaurant. We're seeing jobs that are available fallen pretty much by half, and only unemployment seems to rise daily. Was it National Trust announcing potentially 1,200 jobs going last They announced that last night. So, it's pretty tough as a recruiter right now. But we do think there are opportunities that are available to businesses and to recruiters, and we can kind of cover some of those today. But Tom, you're talking to people daily. What's the vibe on the ground floor of what's being said?
Well, just before we get to that, can you imagine being the recruiter that has to handle 1,000 applications?
Yeah. Well, how?
Have you lost me? Are we still live?
That's okay.
My Virgin Internet's a bit sketchy. Can you imagine being that recruiter having to deal with 1,000 applications for a receptionist role? I mean, receptionist role is always going to have a high volume of applications, but 1,000, how do you deal with that? Especially, considering that, you potentially got team members on furlough, companies potentially being restructured, so you've not got as much resource. So really difficult times. And speaking to a lot of recruiters daily at the moment, there's definitely two types of people at the moment, as there is always. You've got the optimist and the pessimist. But I think, realistically speaking, we've probably got to find the balance in between, because whilst there has been a bit of a spike, let's say, since lockdown eased, we see things slightly going back to normal, or whatever normal is these days.
You can't say new normal.
Yeah, can't say normal. So we've seen seen a bit of a spike and a bit of activity, which has kind of given some people hope. But then on the other side, when you look at it, that spike is only a spike because things are so drastic and so slow, and in regular times, I'm trying not to say new normal. In regular times, that would be a dip. It'd be critical. So we're kind of celebrating the fact that there's been a bit of activity, but that activity is just not enough for the market. It's not enough for the economy, and it's not enough to satisfy anybody's kind of desire or needs around their career plans or their business goals. So it's a really difficult time. But then on the flip side, there is a positive in terms of, like you said, we've gone from candidate shortages to now lots of candidates being available. So the market has opened up in that sense. So there's the potential to attract some good people at the moment, and your business or your clients' businesses. But there's conversations that need to be had around how you actually do that, and what that actually means in real life. So difficult times, signs of optimism, but we still got a long way to go, I think.
I think this whole thing around the 1,000 applications, I think that was actually over something like a week or a few days as well. Yeah. So it's not easy. Yeah. It's not even as if that was drip fed through the whole process. But I think this is something that we're going to see now, is an increase in applications. I mean, even our the wave tracker data, kind of pre this, I think was something like average applications was like 17 something, and across the board they know that's now jumped up. I think just under 25, something like that. So even across the board, just in that period, that's already increased. And I think this is one of the things that recruiters will have their work cut out, and maybe something to look at and consider early on is just, as you said, how do you screen, how do you assess, how do you filter through all of those applications, and do it efficiently.
And then this is the thing. This is the struggle. So whilst there's lots of candidates available, that influx into your business at a time where you're probably running a skeleton staff it's going to be really hard to handle. And if we're honest, you're going to have to look at technology to help support that. It might be technology that you already have in place. So you might need to kind of look at what you're using and how that can support you. if there are things in place, then now's really the time to be going out to the market and comparing that tech with what else is out there, and seeing if you can buy more efficiently and find tools that are actually maybe a little bit more innovative and can support your processes. On the other side, if you haven't got technology in place, nobody really wants to go out and spend any extra pennies right now. So that's that's going to be a bit of a conundrum, and try putting that past your finance director at the moment. That's going to be a difficult conversation. So you're going to kind of have to weigh that up. If you haven't got the technology in place, but you haven't got the resource, what's the cost of putting some more people in versus the technology that you could potentially use? And so there's you're going to increase your expenditure, but potentially if you're using the right technology, you're not going to be increasing that expenditure as much if you started putting some more staff back into your business. So that's be a challenge for a lot of the recruiters at the moment.
I think that there's also a people element to this as well, in terms of we've been used to not getting that much response or not many applications, and so you kind of have had to be a little bit creative in terms of the skills that you've asked for. Whereas now, the chances are you will have access to those skills, which is great. But we've got to brush up a little bit on our screening and interviewing process, because now you've got 1,000. Well, 1,000's extreme, but you might have 80 applications.
Yeah.
Whereas before you're used to getting 15.
Yeah. In the old days, off creaking, showing its vulnerabilities, and just more sort of fuel to the fire. And I think that's an important point now, because the worry we're going to have with all of this is experience. Always go back to that candidate experience. And like you said before, you had to be quite creative in terms of your job opportunities, the benefits, how you word it, your culture, what you're offering. What I hope is that we don't go the other way, and employers and recruiters start to think, well, we don't actually have to offer that much right now, because we've got a whole pool of people that we can kind of choose from, and then all of a sudden job copy starts going out, starts going on a bit of a decline. The response rates of recruiters, this has always been a problem for the industry, but recruiters are not going back to candidates that have applied. That's going to be even more difficult with the influx of applications. So we've got to, I suppose, what we've got to try and be careful of is we don't now go backwards.
Yeah,
you've got to sort out the processes. You've got to kind of restructure. You've got to think about more efficient ways now. You've got to be smarter. Can't do what you did before. You kind of got to get that out of your head a little bit. Things are going to need to be revamped and changed. Not necessarily drastically, but you got to maybe kind of think about how you can do things a bit smarter. But we've got to make sure as an industry we don't go back. We don't go backwards and start moving to the old days of we've got jobs. You should be bowing down to our feet for jobs. So I think that's really important, and I suppose recruiters have got to probably take the lead on that. They've got to kind of educate the industry and kind of ensure that doesn't happen.
Well, there's always that kind of merry-go-round of recruiters versus candidates, and you go onto LinkedIn and you'll see examples of horror stories of from either side. But I think as you said, recruiters, let's take the bull by the horns there a little bit and maintain that candidate experience, because this talent doesn't hang around forever either. You might have a lot of people available now, but let's remember that this is a long game and people have long memories. So I think it's, you mentioned it, it's the tech. Get out in front of it now and know that you need to be able to have something that can communicate efficiently with all of the applications that come in, and also look at the people that are doing those screening and doing that sort of first sift, really, help them with, either the tools or training or whatever it is, to identify and get used to the fact that now we've got to sort through 30, 40, 50 applications, rather than previously, you have three candidates, and you send them all over to the anyway. Let's keep that would be.
Don't get carried away, like you said, because we've gone from a candidate shortage to now candidates being available, but that's going to be short term. Businesses are going to go under, the economy is going to be hit, but as that happens, new opportunities are going to pop up, and we'll start to rebuild and recreate a new industry, or new sectors, new companies, all of these type of things. So and once that happens, we're going to go back to the old problem of good talent is going to be quite hard to find. So you've got to be a bit grounded in these times. I think that's really important. Do not get carried away, and in short, over the short term, you deal with what's in front of you. I think a lot of people taking each day as it comes at the moment. So you've got to deal with what's in front of you, but you can't neglect your long-term plans as well. And you can't, you've got to kind of prepare for what's in front of you today. The landscape probably isn't going to be the same come 6 months. We're going to have an ever-evolving and changing type of marketplace, and you're going to need to be adaptable and you've got to be able to set up to kind of deal with that.
So applications going up. And advertising goes down. So this is your core area, but what's happening with the job boards? We can cut spend, and what are we looking at? 40%, 50%, 60%?
Well, I genuinely believe that you probably won't need as many job board contracts as you once had. You can reduce that down, which of course is going to reduce your annual spend and reduce what you cost, but also reduce what they're going to be earning. So is it a difficult time for them? Are these guys going to, are one or two of them going to disappear? We don't know yet. So that, what kind of impact is that then going to have on the industry? What impact is that going to have with the job boards? But yeah, I mean, definitely from a client point of view, you're not going to need to spend as much at the moment. You're not going to need to buy as many job boards, because one or two boards at the moment are going to have such an influx of traffic that they're probably going to be okay to support the minimal amount of requirements that you have. But whilst that's a good thing initially, because people need to save some money at the moment, and outgoings need to be reduced, long term, is that a positive? We don't know. But I think it's really starting now to ignite the fire, especially across the agency market, of performance-based advertising. This kind of feels like this is going to be the catalyst now to moving us towards, we always knew, or we know it's going to go that way at some stage. Look at the US market. Usually that sort of drips through and follows over here, but because of the way we're set up, our job board market is quite unique, really, if you look at the rest of the world. So it's taken a lot longer for that that transition to happen. So I think this is going to really start to ramp that up, and the benefits are there. If you look at what's going on, if you just look at the conversations we've had with so many different companies about being tied into 12-month contracts that they just can't utilize now, and the strain that's putting on their businesses, that kind of pay-as-you-go model is actually starting to look like a bit of an answer.
Looks like we've triggered something here with job boards, as we've had a few questions or comments coming in, and do you think there'll be a reduced need for job boards as PPC grows? And for me, I think we've got to get away from thinking having job boards and then having PPC. That will merge. I think now the job boards will use that opportunity to and Luke is Luke. Hi Luke. And I think they will move their model in the way that they charge. So I think you'll have the same job boards, but rather than charging a duration, a fixed duration, they will move to a performance model. The job boards have the traffic. It's just the mechanism in which they charge. So I think that they'll move from there. I mean, you look at some of the aggregators that are around and have popped up. I mean, Indeed smashed it, absolutely smashed it. But even with those guys, there's still this niggling reputation that they'll deliver all the quantity but no quality. So I do think that the job boards and the aggregators will really start to focus on quality and assessing the traffic before delivering the ads in front of that particular candidate to make sure that they're the right.
And I think this is the difficult thing for Indeed, especially across the recruitment agency market. I mean, they haven't really conquered the recruitment agency market like what they've done with the employer market. Yes, the big recruitment agencies are on there. Why wouldn't they be? They've got £1 million advertising spend. They're on everywhere, but the small independent agencies haven't, Indeed haven't really cornered that market, and they're still the job boards are still the main go-to for
none of the aggregators have really, have they?
No, none of them. We say Indeed, but really we mean aggregators. It's just, we just end up calling it Indeed because they've been so popular. But yeah, so the small independent recruiters, there's still a lot of misconception around Indeed and what it delivers and how it works. So they probably need to kind of work on that a little bit. I mean, the good thing, with a company like ours is we can kind of help bridge that gap and provide a bit of rationale between sort of, the aggregator salesperson who is sort of promising the world and wants all of your budget, to the kind of nervous recruiter who knows they have to do something different, but it's going into uncharted waters in times real uncertainty. So we can help with that type of area, providing data and insight into the type of jobs that you should be recruiting on these sites. The kind of budgets you should be assigned to, and to your job ads, and I think what's important is knowing how to utilize the PPC model. Providing that education that this is not duration-based listing. This is a completely different model. It needs more of a marketing focus or a marketing-led approach, and if you can understand the dynamics of it, and invest a little time into kind of understanding how the mechanics of the aggregators work, then you can actually build a more profitable and a better attraction strategy across those boards. But I think if now is the time, you need to start exploring these options. You need to have a look at how PPC can work for your business, and how you can develop a strategy that provides initial results, but gets back better as time goes on. Because that's the thing that people don't understand. I mean, this is the issue. Looking at some of these comments here, we've got annual contracts are dated. I suppose there's some truth in that. You've got a job board contract you locked in for 12 months, and you've got to kind of pray and hope that you're going to get the return you want. And more often than not, what do people base that annual contract on? They buy that new contract based on the results from last year. Well, you can't do that now, because the results you got last year ain't going to be the results you're getting this year. So the good thing with PPC is if you can understand how to develop that strategy, you can better that strategy as you go along. It's like a marketing campaign. If you've ever juiced up your website and done some SEO, the SEO gets stronger and powerful as you go on. And if you make a few wrong turns, it can go on the decline as well. So you've got to stay on top of it. So that's my advice really. To the people. You need to explore PPC now. This really is the time. The job boards aren't dead. They've got a whole load of traffic, but I think you're right that the mechanics of the product need to change. So maybe we're looking at a reduction in duration-based listings and a bit more budget pumped into kind of PPC and exploring how that works. That's probably the way it's going to go, isn't it? So
yeah, I think one of the things I think potentially will happen with the aggregator market is I think we might see a bit of contraction. It just seems over the last few years you've got loads of aggregators have just popped up kind of almost out of nowhere, and they're sort of almost trading traffic amongst each other. And any candidate that's been in that experience, when you find a job on one of these channels and you're redirected and redirected and redirected and redirected, only to find the job's expired. That can't continue.
No. User experience has got to improve massively across the aggregators. Like it has to.
Say that again.
I say sorry if you've lost me. The user experience across the aggregators has to improve massively.
Yeah. It's not cool.
Yeah, no. And just looking in the column here, David, someone's talking about cost per application is a better strategy. Yeah, ideally you need to be thinking about, you might be charged cost per click, but you need to be looking at things on a cost per application basis. And this is the difficulty when running your first PPC campaign, is you concentrate on the clicks because that's what you're sold. That's what you assign the monetary value to, and you can't really understand the cost per application until you post out your jobs and get a bit of a response. So you need to track that data, record it, analyze it, and then start to work out what your cost per application is. And it's only once you've got that data, and this goes back to my point earlier about bettering your strategy as you go forward. Once you've got that data and you understand that because the way to look at it is you're going to record that data, and then you go right, well, for this job role, 10 clicks equals 1 quality application, and if you're paying 50p a click, then you're going to pay £5 an application, and really that's the figure you want to focus on, because that's really what you're investing. Because if you get 9 clicks, you've spent money, and that money offers no value to you. So it's only till you spend the £5 that you're actually getting the return. So that's the other thing that we need to be careful with the aggregators. It's pay as you go, and you pay for what you get if you understand your cost per application. If you're basing it on clicks, you don't pay for what you get, because a click there's not necessarily any value to that click unless it converts. So
just think with that, and this is where we've had this conversation with numerous clients around PPC. The theory is brilliant. The theory is just amazing. And when you listen to the aggregators sort of go through their sales pitch, it is just amazing. You'd like, get my checkbook out, and checkbooks today still exist, I know. But I'll pay. Let's go ahead right now. I think that the problem that you've got is, and the question in there from Matt is, if you're able to fully track it. And this is where it breaks down a little bit, because you've got some recruiters that have very complex, very complicated ATSs, where you're trying to get rid of people, almost as people are applying, because it's such a poor experience. So whose fault's that? If you're paying cost per application, then the aggregator is saying, hang on, I'm delivering you applications, but they're not getting through your clunky ATS. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is making sure that you've got the correct tracking in place to actually do it. And again, this is where some conversations break down with the big recruiters, or the big corporate recruiters. There's a problem. And then with the smaller recruiters, sometimes getting some tracking code in a website takes 6 months. And then you go back to the whole idea, I'll just put 30 jobs on Read or CV Library or whatever, because I know I can advertise in an hour or in 2 hours or whatever. So, that's where this whole model needs to change. And that's where I think the job boards, because they've got the traffic, because they've got the relationships with the clients, and there's probably a stronger relationship there, I think that's where we'll see some movement, some movement. And so yes, cost per application is better. if you can. The complications is tracking, and then the other complication is quality. How do you define quality? Because an aggregator could give you 300 applications just like that. They say, there you go, pay me my £10 per application because I've given you 300. You turn around and say, well, they're rubbish. I don't want to pay for them. And you've got that whole subjective thing of quality. That's subjective. What I think is a good candidate and what you think is a good candidate could be completely. You know, we've had this when you and I have done recruitment in the past. Anyway, we're looking at candidates and we've got different opinions. That's where CPA falls down, and we've got some work.
And then you add in the fact that you might not be able to screen all the candidates at the moment because you haven't got your tech sorted. So then again, there's that, the aggregator saying you've had X amount of applications, job done, and you're kind of looking at it and saying, well, no, we actually haven't. And so there's that discrepancy. There always seems to be a discrepancy, doesn't there? Whether it's job board aggregator, it always means a discrepancy across what they've delivered and what the actual client feels that they've received. So I suppose what we're saying is the tracking and the tech is going to be the sort of the final piece to the puzzle in all of this. But it's about understanding each component and what part they play and what's the objective of each piece in this attraction strategy. What is each piece designed to do and what the deciding outcome. And what I think maybe we need to start being a little bit more transparent and open with each other, and I suppose again the PPC model. I'm trying not to overly sell the PPC model today, because that's not really my job or my place to kind of do that. But again, the problem we've had in the past is clients will dumb down or water down the results because they want to drive their cost down on their 12-month contract, and the job boards will over exaggerate the results and manipulate the stats to drive the cost up. And we need to kind of get away from this mentality and actually have closer relationships. Whether you're buying through a company like ours and we're providing you advice and recommendations, or if you're dealing directly with the job boards and the aggregators, you need to kind of be a bit open around what's actually being delivered and what it is you're actually looking for. And I feel you can probably do that a little bit more with pay-per-click because the costs don't change. There's no inconsistent pricing model. So again, this is another thing where the job boards are a bit dated. This inconsistent pricing model has been really good in certain ways because it has delivered so much to so many companies at such a good rate and offered some really good returns. On the flip side,
this is why the job boards, what we call the traditional job boards, the duration based job boards, have fought such a good fight from the influx of performance from America, because the conversations that you have with aggregators when they say, well, the cost would be this and this, and then you look at it and say, well, this is what we pay on the job boards, and the aggregator goes, we can't get near that. That pricing is immense.
So that's a really important point, David. So just going back to the educational piece, if you've got 1,000 jobs, CV Library, Read, Jobs Like whoever, right? Do not turn up to an aggregator and say how much for 1,000 jobs. You've got to understand that you're dealing with a completely different platform. Aggregators are not a job board. See them as a search engine. Yeah, you're running a marketing campaign across their search engine. So do not turn up and say, I've got 1,000 jobs, price it up for me. Because what they will do is they will then give you a recommended budget based on those 1,000 jobs, and they'll be rubbing their hands together whilst they're doing it. You'll then take that away and compare that versus what you get on a traditional job board, and you will just say, well, look at what I'm paid £10 an ad or whatever, and it's not going to seem viable.
But and we should move on from job boards. So we always seem to get stuck on job. But the whole thing is, again, if you go back to a cost per application model, like with a job board, and we've got to think about the new world as well. With a job board, you might pay £10 an ad, and you might get 60 applications of a reoccurring role. Yeah. So you're like, I've only paid £10 for this. if you're paying cost per application, it might be that if you want to get the 60 applications, that might cost you 300 quid. So actually, being balanced on it, everyone talks about PPC, performance, and that's the way forward. But actually, if that was the case, there would be some losers in this. Yes, annual contracts are outdated. You're buying stuff up front. You're buying on a fix. You sort of pay your money and take your chance.
Yeah.
If we really want to go down that performance model, there will be people that will say it's now costing me more because I've got to pay for the results now, whereas before I got the results as was.
And this is you got to be able to adapt your strategy. And it goes back to the tracking. It always comes back to the tracking. And I suppose, to move away from the job boards, let's carry on our conversation down the line. But on a positive note, for now, then, to answer the first question that we sort of opened up when we started the webinar is what do we do now? So I suppose the answer really is you're not looking at getting rid of your job boards completely, but maybe kind of slimming them down and using the ones that are going to provide the right results for the requirements that you've got coming up. And again, companies like ours can help with that by providing our the data, the insight that we collect across Wave Tracker and all of that sort of stuff. So you look at kind of slimming that down. You then start to explore your PPC options, which give you a bit of flex, as and when peaks and it's going to be peaks and troughs now, isn't it, for the next 12 months? So as and when those requirements come in, you can kind of spend a bit of budget, record some data, and get some results, and create this kind of ecosystem where you have a combination of kind of job boards that you can utilize and rely on, and also you can sort of ramp up a PPC campaign should the requirements come in. But again, it comes back to the technology and the tracking. That's you're not going to be able to do this without the right data, the right insight, and the tracking of all of these contracts.
So let's tie in that last question around Indeed and Glassdoor with the next kind of point. We've got more applications, less kind of budget maybe, but actually this is all driven by less jobs available in the market. And this sort of getting into an area where this isn't our kind of real sweet spot of what it is that we do, but recruiters are going to have to make some adjustments as well, because they've got to work harder to secure the jobs that they're working on. You speak to an agency and they would have 50, 60 jobs on any one time, no problem, and now that's 5 or 10. So that's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. And people are going to start driving down, or going to try driving down the rates for these recruitment agencies, because they're going to see it as, well, there's I can pick fruit from any tree at the moment. There's an abundance of candidates. It's an easy job. Recruitment's not an easy job. That's why nobody wants to do it. Really,
that's the point you start, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not an easy, incredibly difficult job. You need to be, good recruiters are really highly skilled, really understand their marketplace, really understand their clients, and are really good at what they do. So you're going to have this problem where the recruiter's job is going to become more difficult, but in different areas than what it was before. You're going to have employers thinking, well, great, we'll just get rid of all of our agencies, bring everything in-house. And then what's going to happen is they're going to start putting out their jobs. We've seen how many times with the corporates, outdated ATS systems that just can't handle, any real kind of influx of applications. And then you've got internal recruitment teams sort of breaking down and just not being able to handle the screening process. Deadlines then start to get missed. Then you kind of, running back to your agency and kind of, potentially your relationship's a bit on the ropes then, because you kind of, So I suppose there's got to be a bit of transparency now between sort of client and recruiter. They've got to get a bit closer. I mean, I quite like these embedded solutions that we're seeing nowadays, and you know, we've never run a recruitment agency, so you know, we're not telling anybody how to suck eggs. But I've been quite impressed by these embedded solutions that we see now. These hybrid type of product offerings. Essentially, it's an RPO offering, isn't it? And you know, being able to create that kind of, you know, you can go out and promote your client's brand, but then, you know, still provide the service, which is what the recruitment companies are really good at, and that's screening the candidates, you know, getting rid of the time wasters, making the process efficient, you know, shortlisting the correct and accurate people, you know, for that job role, and being set up to handle it. And I think this is where kind of the opportunity lies now, is to kind of get a bit closer, client and recruiter to get a bit closer, be a bit more transparent on both sides. You know, it's going to take, you know, both parties are going to have to work and adapt to this, get a bit closer, be a bit transparent, and look at the strengths on each side. So if there are strengths with the client's brand, you need to be utilizing that. So I think like the recruiter needs to maybe think, well, we're in a competitive market, we know that, but if I've got a strong relationship with my client, then and we're both, you know, in the right mind frame and have the same goals, then we can utilize the client's brand at the moment, because that's still going to be important. Even though you're getting an influx of applications, you know, having the right people come into your brand is important, because you're just going to waste more time, because the retention volumes are going to go up if you're not recruiting the right people. So you have to be transparent, and then look at the strengths of the recruiter. You know, how, you know, what is it that a recruitment company does? You know, this is really important, and really kind of hone in on those skills and promote those skills, market those skills, and demonstrate to the employers that this isn't the time for driving down costs. This isn't the time for thinking you can do it all on your own and it's easy. Actually, it's very, very difficult. And it's difficult not because of the old challenges that you used to have, it's because of now the new challenges that have come about, because of the way that the market is. And if they can try and, you know, maybe try and promote that, then I think that might be able to help. Again, you know, not a recruitment agency. We've never run a recruitment agency, so this is just, you know, this is my 2 cents. So
I think the brand thing is really important, and you know, we talk about that quite a lot. And you know, so just coming back to the Indeed and Glassdoor, you know, kind of announcement, I think that's great. You know, I really like what Glassdoor has in terms of keeping it transparent around what the employee experience is like. And I'm a bit surprised that they haven't, you know, been closer sooner when Indeed acquired Glassdoor. But it just, this need for transparency will be even greater, because as a recruiter, you're dealing with your brand, with your client's brand that's now, you know, that's out there, you know, on Glassdoor, and with Indeed, it's tied even, you know, even closer than ever before. So there's, you know, you can't be talking to candidates about what the client is like, what the employer experience is like, and you can't give them any myths, because they can go and find that out really, really easily themselves. In fact, they probably even know what it's like before you've even spoken to them. I think for me, and again, you know, this isn't our area, so I can only talk about, you know, our experiences of using recruiters. And I think there's an opportunity for recruiters to create a more valuable relationship with clients. Clients have to be receptive to it. You know, clients have to get away from this, you know, commodity sort of trade, if you like. But if I'm using a recruiter that genuinely cares about the business, and genuinely wants to find the right person, they take the time to understand the culture of the business, they look beyond a sort of tick boxing skill set exercise, then, you know, I'm happy to give them complete exclusivity on all the roles, because you take the time, they take the time to understand your business. If if you get the sense that they're just there to try and fill that role as quickly as possible, to send their bill, to make their fee, then that's when you fall back into the commodity box of, well, why don't I just fling this job out to every recruiter, because it's just a case of sending me CVs and I'll pick it from there, and whoever gets the job gets lucky.
Yeah.
But that doesn't benefit my business, because I'm then taking 100% of the screening and assessment. Whereas if you brief a recruiter properly and the recruiter works it properly, give them your trust, and then they'll give they'll give it back in spades. So, that's where I think there's a real opportunity, because, the market was a bit stale. There were so many recruitment agencies differentiate themselves. Everyone was just working on job after job, trying to find a needle in a haystack. And this is where it comes down to the opportunity. Not all agencies are going to survive if you continue to kind of just fling CVs to people. If you don't treat the candidate experience very well, they're not going to be around. So this is a chance for quality to really come to the fore.
Yeah, and and if you don't support the good agencies, the really good recruitment companies and the really good recruiters that understand, if you don't support them during this time, and you use what's going on as a bit of a stick to beat them down in terms of cost, and they disappear, we're just going to see the rise of more cowboys. They're out there. We know they're out there. How many times you go onto LinkedIn and you see, you hear all the stories about what certain companies get up to. And I know it works both ways. I think employers are very quick to bash the recruitment agencies, and sometimes they're no better in terms of the way they operate. But you're right. If we don't support the good recruitment companies now and the good recruiters, and they start disappearing, someone's going to fill that hole, and it might not necessarily be somebody who's as good. And again, go back to the dark ages.
Yeah. We are smashing through the time, and our 45-minute webinar is now 47 minutes. So we'll start to kind of bring it to a bit of a wrap up. But so we're saying that we're going to get more candidates, more applications. So check your systems, people and tech wise, in how you're going to deal with that and maintain a high level of candidate experience. We're thinking that we're going to see a shift from quantity to quality from the job boards in terms of the way that they put jobs in front of candidates to make sure that you're getting a better quality of result. We expect they will charge more on a performance model in the future as and when they can. Less cost of advertising. Where should they put their money then, Tom? In their pocket?
Well, yeah. In a way, you've got to be stringent in these times, and you've got to kind of protect your business for the future. But you've got to understand it's not always about saving money. It's about putting that money into the right places. So speaking to understanding, who's got the insight, who understands where best to place these adverts. Have you guys got the data? If so, utilize it. Have companies like us got the data? If so, give us a call. Have the job boards got the data? Have the aggregators? Go and seek the expertise. If you want to buy a diamond, don't go to the blacksmith. So go and seek the expertise of the people that can actually ensure that you get the right return. So yeah, if you need to save the money based on the situation of your business due to COVID-19, then yeah, pocket the money, keep it for a rainy day, and start planning for the future. On the other side, if you kind of want to push through and crack on with what you're doing, but want to change the way that you're doing it, then you have to move that money around. and you have to put it into somewhere more secure, somewhere that's going to give a better return. So that's important. And going back to, again, when it comes to tech, it might not be about, you can't really get rid of your tech right now, so it might not be about cancelling your contract and saving some money. It might be you've got to explore the market. The thing is with technology is so innovative, it moves at a rapid pace. But and we're all guilty of this, we put a CRM system in, put an ATS in, multi-posting software, whatever, any type of recruitment software, and then you end up just renewing it because it does a job and it delivers, and that just kind of ticks over, and you actually don't go out and see if there is something that can do what your tech is doing, but in a better way or at a better cost. So you've got to kind of explore those options. I think that's really important for right now. So yeah, I suppose that's my answer.
Detailed as ever. And I guess the last thing is we're expecting the opportunity to create a higher value relationship with the clients, and I think that is a real key thing. I think there's no getting away. We're in a really hard time. And we sort of talked about optimists and pessimists. And I think we can be as optimistic as we want, which is great. It's still a tough time, but there are opportunities, I think, for recruiters to really make strides forward in terms of growing their market share, growing their size of their business. I think in-house recruiters can find the talent that they need to help their business move forward as well. So I think we've got real potential, but just we've got to focus on the quality experience, quality ads, quality data, quality research, quality. It really, this is the time where you can really make some moves forward if you really focus on making sure that everything you do is as high standard as possible.
And to try and put a spotlight on things, we've got a bit of time on our hands. So reducing those inefficiencies where possible. That's it. Working smart. That's what everyone bangs on. Working smart. What does that actually mean? Reducing these inefficiencies. I mean, going back to the point with Glassdoor and Indeed. I mean, they've done it there, haven't they? They've looked at the strengths of Glassdoor. They've looked at the strengths of Indeed. They both offer. If you see Indeed on its own and Glassdoor on its own, Glassdoor have got a place for you to embrace and advertise your employer brand, and you can run sponsored advertising on there. Indeed do a very similar thing, but the Indeed are powerful with sponsored advertising. Glassdoor are powerful on the brand side. So kind of taking those two and putting them together actually a lot more. What was that? Sorry, I lost you there, Dave.
You've got the quantity and the quality there as well. So I think it's a real top move. I'm going to say we're out of time because people will be getting hungry and they'll be wanting to go and have their lunch, Tom. So let's let them do that. Thank you to everyone who has joined and watched us. Hopefully you found that useful. If there's anything that you want to kind of discuss, talk about, then get in touch. I think we just shared some of our social media channels there as well. So do follow us. If you think this is useful, then follow us, share, like, comment. We're doing 8 more. So if you didn't like this one, then we'll probably get better in the remaining 8. But do join us for those as well. Tom, I'll let you say.
Yeah. So I think anybody who's been watching these shows can tell this is not an opportunity for us to go out and hit the market and sell our products and promote ourselves as a brand. It's about providing a bit of insight into kind of how we're feeling and how we're seeing things. So if anybody's watched this and wants to speak to me about their situation, and their plans, I'm happy to have these type of conversations. No hard sell, no obligations, just a friendly chat. and see if I can provide any advice. Again, if there's anything that's popped up here that you kind of want to discuss further with us, again, feel free to get in touch. Find me on LinkedIn, call our office phone.
Thank you, everyone, and hopefully see you at the next one. Cheers, guys.
Bye.